this is what I find fulfilling, you know, like it's weird as an artist, at least from my perspective, like if I go like 2-3 months, I'm not doing anything artistic, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
What do you want to be? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be like content?
AI is kind of a touchy subject for a lot of artists, right? Because it can do some amazing things, and it is a very helpful tool.
Who were you inspired by? Because I feel like you're sort of one of the pioneers for what you do.
Life is about other things as well, you know.
Yeah.
You have to make time for these things, but
Yeah.
I feel almost guilty, like I should be creating something.
I feel like that is a fundamental to any compositions for like especially larger tattoos and subject matter. It's the golden rule, the golden ratio for like any tattoo.
I used to have a problem with seeing my stuff being ripped off. I'd see somebody blatantly take a tattoo I did and redo it. And it bothered me because, you know, I put a lot of time into it. I drew it for this one particular person.
Hey everybody, we're here with Justin Hartman. He is a legend in the industry. He's been around for a long time. I'm excited to hear about this pioneer.
Hey, I'm Monique. I'm hosting my second hands-on seminar at Eden Body Art Studios here in Dallas, Texas. The first day I'll do a live presentation on color theory and how I pick and manipulate my references, and then I'll do a live tattoo from start to finish. The second day you'll be able to do that same tattoo that I did on fake skin, and I'll be walking around and guiding people and helping just with application, colors, and everything like that. I'm trying to keep this smaller so everyone has as much one-on-one time with me as possible. Visit EdenBodyArtStudios.com/edu to get all the information and to book your ticket.
So I'm really excited to talk to you. One, because you have been very prominent in the industry for a long time, but also you're one of the few people out there that I feel like knows the industry way back when. When I say way back when, I mean like 15, 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I this will be in December will be my 20th year.
Nice.
In the industry, like since I started my apprenticeship, you know.
Wow.
So I haven't been tattooing quite 20 years, but.
And we talked a little bit about your apprenticeship yesterday. Did you have like that typical old school apprenticeship?
So
You have to scrub tubes.
what do you? Yeah. Okay. What, like I was gonna say, what do you consider old school, right?
Yeah,
For
that's
apprenticeship.
true.
Yeah.
Like, not saying did you have to like make acetate for stencils or anything, but like
Not that far back. No.
did you have to scrub? Use autoclaves and
I had to scrub a lot of tubes, man. There were, when I started there, let's see, there were like 6 artists, I think, and a couple piercers, right? So like, yeah, I was like I'd finish one person's tubes and I hated doing them. Nobody likes doing tubes.
they're the worst.
Like you just like, I'm sitting there scrubbing them like far away from me, you know, just because like nobody told me that I should be wearing face protection, all this stuff. And I mean, like, you think like, oh, it's pretty common sense, but like once something splashes in your face, then you're like, yeah, I gotta like, then you figure it out, right? That's kind of how I did
face
it.
protection either. I didn't know.
Yeah, right. So then I'm like, because I'm this like, I'm pretty clean, like in tattooing, you know what I mean? I notice when people do dirty shit. So like tubes are just like, it's just gross, right?
So
Can't be.
gross.
So like I'm in that little bio room scrubbing, and when I finished, I'm like, cool, I'm finally done, right? As soon as I'm done, man, like an hour later, somebody's like, yo, I need you to do my tubes. I'm like, fuck, man. Like,
Thought I just did that.
it was a lot of tubes.
And back then too, like artists would use 2 to 4 needles, tubes, machines at a time
Yeah,
too.
yeah, setting up like, I think like 2 or 3 machines at a time.
Yeah.
I don't think tattoos were quite as intricate as they are now.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, you know, I'll get like 6, 7 needle cartridges out just because, I don't know.
Because it's
Just
easy.
throw 'em- yeah, you
Yeah.
just throw them away after.
When I was an apprentice, when I was first scrubbing tubes, I was wearing cute shoes and I slipped and fell while I was scrubbing, got shit just all over me. And so
hate it.
for the rest of my apprenticeship, they made me go to Walmart to get like the ugliest pair of Velcro sneakers, and I had to wear them every day.
Did you ever slip again?
Nope.
So there you go. That would have done it.
I feel like it's crazy how many artists are out there that have never had to scrub tubes or probably don't even know what
Yeah.
that
I mean,
means.
good for them though, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's not like, I would have been fine with it. Like, hey, man, you don't know what it's like to scrub tubes. I'd have been like, cool. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to make my own needles a few times. I had to build, I think it's pretty common still to have to build your own machines, but my mentor like helped me build my first liner for shader, you know.
Nice.
So I mean, yeah, it was a, I guess, old school apprenticeship. It's cool too because my mentor Sage, he had a lot of like actual like old school guys coming through. You know what I mean? Like I had to bring toiletries to Lyle Tuttle in a hotel, like because I was the apprentice,
Wow.
deliver it to him. I took
That's
that guy's
cool.
seminar and it was just him telling like old stories, man. Like that dude, he's got some stories.
Yeah.
Like
That's
they're in
so
a time
cool.
that none of us can even like.
What's a story you remember?
I'm not gonna tell Lyle stories, man. That's not for me to tell.
Okay.
But
Okay.
just wild stories about him partying and just doing crazy shit when he was like
Mm.
younger. And I think he was a pretty wild guy even as he was a little bit older.
Yeah.
But again, I don't. That this was a 20-year memory. I
Yeah.
don't want to butcher any of the details.
Sure.
He can't back up like
Yeah.
he can't tell his side if I get any details wrong. So we're just gonna leave it there. But
All right.
Yeah.
Well-
Well, so I was gonna. I know you don't want to talk about your apprenticeship too much. You don't want to talk about the boring shit. The
it's okay.
shit that you talked about a bunch of times. But actually, so that being said, I heard about your apprenticeship story on Bobby's podcast, and I listened to that a few years ago. But I listened to it like kind of recently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when I knew we were gonna have you on the podcast. So I listened to like the beginning, and I was like, I don't want to refresh myself on this because I want it to be novel when we talk. But
Sure, yeah.
one of the things I remember that you saying is that you paid for your apprenticeship,
I did.
right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And Lucas, your apprentice coworker now, he paid for his apprenticeship as well.
Yep. So I basically went about it just the same way that I treated his apprenticeship the way that I was apprenticed because that's the only way I knew.
Yeah.
Right. So I just did it all pretty similar. So I mean, when I went to the shop to get an apprenticeship, like they didn't know anything about me. I was just some kid off the street, right? So like, he's not just gonna be like, yeah, man, I'll apprentice you for sure because you can draw, right? Like, so I had to just trust this guy. I wasn't just gonna take my money and he like they could have fired me and what would I have done, right?
Yeah.
And that money wasn't easy for me to get at the time. So
Yeah.
it-
I think you said you had to put your car up as collateral or something like
Yeah,
that.
and even then they
because
only-
you didn't have enough. Is
yeah,
that right?
I still didn't have enough. They only gave me $4,000
Wow.
for my '96 Honda Civic, man. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So with Lucas, I did the same thing. It was $5,000, and that's what I had to pay. That's what he had to pay. I don't think so. My mentor was cool, and like I kept making him like payments to him. Like I was like, I'll get you the other 1,000. And then he's like, he could tell I was trying and putting in the effort. So he's like, you can start, man. We'll figure the rest out later.
Nice.
And he ended up, I gave him a few $100 here and there when I had it. I didn't have money when I was an apprentice, dude. I was so broke the whole time. And eventually he was like, you're good, man.
Nice.
Like, yeah. So yeah, he never like, threw me out in the streets, like I became an artist that they were proud of. I started like doing conventions and winning, little best a day and stuff like that. And like for the shop, and like they were stoked about that, So
Yeah,
they
totally.
always treated me well, and yeah. So
Back in that day, who were you inspired by? Because I feel like you're sort of one of the pioneers for what you do, neotrad. So I'm just curious who you looked up to.
yeah, it was harder to find people back then. You know what I mean? Like you knew about like the big time guys. Everybody knew Uncle Alan and Nico and
Yeah.
people you'd see in magazines a lot. That's how you found them. So I was really inspired by. I remember when I saw like Derek Noble's work, I was like, whoa, what is this? So he kind of like he was a big one. Jeff Gogwe, dude, was like. So did like we'll talk about before Jeff Gogwe, right? So when I first got into it, I think the first person that I can remember being inspired by would be like maybe like Eckel. I saw his girls. Yeah, like you saw a lot of traditional girls and stuff, but there wasn't a lot of people doing like, like girls like I'm doing or like Bobby's
Right.
doing or Emily Rosemary, stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of that going on yet. There was some, there was like Joe Capobianco was there, but I'd only seen like his art books and stuff. So I had a lot of traditional guys around me. I think I was inspired mostly by them. A lot of the traditional guys back in Arizona where I started. So it was mostly traditional influence. I mean, I remember like Chris Detmer. You guys ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Dude blew my mind. He was a German artist. Just did like these really cool, like wonky, just kind of like crazy looking skulls and roses and stuff. Like he did my hand at a convention. Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know that I fully answered your question, but I mean, later we got into it. Jeff Gogwe was like I was like, whoa, that dude blew my mind, you know.
So you really kind of came up with what you do on your own, like your own specific style.
With, to a certain extent, yeah. My style was when I started my apprenticeship, I was drawing realistic, like portrait drawings, right? But I was also heavily influenced by comic books. And then the guys I was learning from, they were like, I wanted to, you know, like they were doing traditional, and I looked up to these guys. I was like, these guys are cool, you know. So like, I want to fit in with these guys. I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I started doing traditional, but it just didn't really feel like me. It wasn't my style of drawing.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from it, and I took everything I knew from that, from comic books, from realism, and then eventually just put it all into something that felt right. And I didn't think about it. I was just like, I had an idea for a girl with a spider on her face, you know, and I drew it the way that I just felt it felt natural, and that's when everything changed. Like that print led to another print. Those two prints together, they kind of took off, and they got reposted a billion times. Like I remember, I gave them to Jeff Gogwe when I met him at Ink and Iron, I think it was. And then he told me later, he's like, yeah, when I was unpacking, like I got to those prints, and I was like, man, these are too cool. I got to put these up. And then he posted them. And back then, you get a post on Instagram, you get like, you know, you wake up, you're like, holy shit, I got like 2,000 new followers, you know.
Wow.
Now people just like, they just scroll past in their stories often,
Yeah.
you know. But back then, it meant something to be reposted.
Wow.
That's it, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was influenced by people for sure.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, I took what I'd like to do, what I was influenced by, and kind of just did my own thing with it. I think that's what you know.
How do you feel? And I only think of this too because another OG I think of is like Louis Lips. And I know that eventually he just kind of deleted his whole Instagram, and he was, from what I heard, I don't know how true it is, but he was kind of tired of people biting his shit a little bit.
I don't think that's
but he
true.
came back. That's just, it could be just a rumor.
I can't say for sure, but I have spent some time with, his name is Lars. I've spent a little bit of time with him. And I had a conversation with him about, we were just talking about that very thing, like people, you know, I was like, yo, how often, because I mean, I see a lot of people influenced by his work. Like a lot of the tricks that he's, you know, I mean, he's great at what he does. Very talented guy. And I see a lot of people implementing his style, you know, just
Yeah.
using, you know, taken from what he's doing. He's a very influential guy. I mean, I'm influenced by him as well, you know, but he actually said to me, he's like, I was like, how do you feel about like when people steal your stuff? And he's like, I don't give a shit about that.
Really?
I don't think he cares.
Do you know why you kind of left for a second?
I don't think he left. Because, what do you mean left?
Like his Instagram was deleted for a while, and then he
Was
brought
it his
back.
Instagram though, or was it
His
like,
tattoo
like
industry?
how recently?
I would say
This is a while ago.
4 years ago.
I don't know if he was
5
on
years?
Instagram 4 years
5
ago.
years
It might have
ago.
been like a page that somebody made of his. So this is all me speculating. I don't actually know. So I remember when he was on MySpace. So I remember him on MySpace. He might have been.
Wow.
Wait. I don't know if it was MySpace or Facebook. One of those two. But I think he was taking his appointments from. I actually think it was Facebook. He was probably on MySpace too. And then Instagram popped off, but he still wasn't on there yet. I think there might have been pages that people made for him. And then I think eventually he made one. That as to the best of my knowledge, that's I don't recall him deleting and remaking it. But there's a lot of stories about this guy. Like everybody, before I met him, I heard so many stories,
Yeah.
and I don't know that a lot of them check out. I think but I think he likes that. Like there's all these crazy stories about him, and I don't know for sure.
It's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that because I'm curious how you felt and if you feel like people are heavily influenced by what you do, and if you ever have that feeling of like wanting to hold on to something for yourself.
As you saw last night when we all went out to dinner, I don't like I showed you guys so much stuff that like just looking through my phone that I don't even know if I will ever post.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm in that mindset currently. I used to have a problem with seeing my stuff being ripped off. I'd see somebody blatantly take a tattoo I did and redo it. And it bothered me because, I put a lot of time into it. I drew that
Yeah.
for this one particular person. And I feel like it's special in that way, right? Like this, any tattoo on my body, your body, whatever, it should belong to you only. unless it's like a piece
Yeah.
of flash or something, and if
Yeah.
it's known that it's going to be tattooed on other people, right? That's how I feel about it. However, eventually it's like I started doing these little tricks, right? Like like post at an angle, so it's harder to just trace it, or I'd do all these little things. And now it's like if you're gonna post it, you gotta expect it. It's like you can waste all your time worrying about it, and calling out other artists and stuff, but like it's gonna happen, Like
Yeah.
you post it out there, it's out there now. Somebody somewhere is gonna use it. So I don't really worry about it too much anymore. But I think the reason me not posting, it's just to be honest, it's finding the time to do it. It's like a whole thing now. Like people are posting videos and reels, and I'm not a real guy, like I'm not a guy that's gonna do reels.
Yeah.
Like, I might eventually, but I just I don't have the effort, and like I don't want to put the effort into that. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So I miss when Instagram was just photos. I just want to show photos. So, I do enjoy sharing my work. It's just, I think I like to get healed photos of things too, because that's a whole discussion, about what people post online. You see a lot of fresh stuff. How much of that, it's not really real until it's healed. You don't know what the tattoo is actually going to look like. And it's misleading because people find a good artist. They do the research. They don't know what it heals like. Every artist gets bad heals, right? You can't always you're not there to make sure they take care of it properly, etc.
Right.
So, but tells a lot.
So, are you saying maybe you kind of like use that as fuel to constantly push yourself in the industry too?
Use what, like not
People ripping your stuff off.
in a way.
Like if you don't, you say like, okay, well, it's gonna happen if you put it out there. So do you use that as fuel then to constantly try to change and get better? Or
So my mentality is, if I did it, let's say I did it first, or I did it last, right? But there's a bunch of people doing it. I don't want to just kind of blend into that herd, right? Because nobody cares if you were the first one or the last one.
yeah,
If you're doing the same style, and you know how like there's a lot of styles now that look very similar to one another,
yeah,
and some certain artists, you can't really tell them apart, right? Like once things kind of start to feel that way is when I try to branch off and I'll try something new. I'm not saying that like I stand alone on this island and everybody else is over here. I'm not saying that, but like that's my mentality.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to be part of the same pack. So really I'm just kind of focusing on like, what do I want to do next? Like, where do I want to go from here? I'm focusing more on that. But when I start, like if I have a trick, right? Like let's say I have a little trick I do in the eye and I haven't seen it before, but then I start to see it more and more and more and more. And you do see that happen. Like there's a new trick and everybody takes it, no matter who created it, things get used. People are like, oh, I like that. I'm going to implement that. So now that makes me want to branch off, stop doing that and do something different.
yeah, yeah.
So where would you say nowadays you find most of your inspiration?
I find my inspiration from just, I guess, as cheesy as it sounds, from just real life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's all out there. It's like, people's like I draw faces, I look at real photographs or real people or nature, the flowers and animals and stuff like that. Like I try to use real reference so that I'm not, if I use, let's just say like I'm using Bobby's work for reference, it's going to look more like Bobby's work if I do that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, like I said, we're all influenced by somebody, right?
And you really step outside the box, even small things like you just did a seminar here and you were like, I really like the back of flowers. And I'm like, there is not one other person I know of that would be like, yeah, the back of this flower would be the focal, focal flower.
I think it's because
but you
I
make
really
it look great.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to pay attention to how things, like, it's funny because somebody called me out for something about that design. And, but like for the most part, I actually try to pay attention to how things, like if you're holding a flower, right? There's so many times I have a girl holding a flower and I'm like, the stem's going back this way, right? I'd want to see the back of that flower, but I don't have the reference for it. So like they'll draw the front of a flower, but the stem's going back,
Yeah.
So like I love that angle and you don't see it a lot. I think I have seen Lars do it a few times. I mean, maybe that's where I got the idea, but I just go to the rose garden. I take all these like angles that you don't usually find online. Because you take a picture of a rose, usually people do like straight on or
Yeah.
3/4, because that's like where it's the most intricate and beautiful and whatever, you know, subjectively. But yeah, somebody called me out about like, they're like, so the way this flower is, there was leaves behind it. So there was like the stem, the flower, and then leaves. He's like, this wouldn't actually work. And I was like, no, you're right, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
And it's a tattoo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like sometimes you just gotta like, you just put shit in because it looks cool.
Right.
But like as far as like human anatomy, like I was saying, you can't just have a hand coming from somewhere where it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the stuff I really do pay attention to. But like leaves on a flower, maybe they're different leaves coming from somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he made a good point, and I was like, it's like he said it, and like now I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I mean, he's right. So,
That's why I feel like everybody, no matter what kind of style you do, should learn something from trad, neotrad tattooers. And I love neotrad because I feel like that is a fundamental to any compositions for like especially larger tattoos and subject matter and how like the simplicity of it too. And I think that is just it's the golden rule, the golden ratio for like any tattoo, whether you incorporate that into realism or whatever.
sure.
But that's just one of the reasons. And we talk about like anatomy, and you were saying like you make your hands a little bit bigger in tattoos than they are in real life because it looks better. And I always thought like what's cool about neotrad is that not everything is anatomically correct, but that's okay. You make what looks like a sick design, like a sick tattoo, and you can break some of those rules after you learn them.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you're putting these on people's bodies. So as people move and do these things, like it's not like a flat piece of paper. So you kind of have to break some of these rules to trick the eye into thinking, you know, to seeing it a certain way, right? That's the hardest part. And kind of what you're saying, like neo-traditional is it's such a like stamp that is stuck to so many different styles. For instance, like I don't like being categorized there just because I don't feel like that's what I'm doing. You can call it whatever you want. Like not you, but you know what I mean? Like if you think I'm neo-traditional, that's fine. I don't know how to categorize it.
Because you really like you are in a league of your own. That's just the
thank
simplest way to put it. I mean, you do something that's above just regular neo-traditional work.
I mean, I'm kind of trying to do just what feels right to me, whether that's, you know, whatever that is, right? But also like to take it even further, like, you know, neo-traditional came from traditional. So the rules of like traditional tattoos, right? That's like where these rules all came from. I don't know about like the composition necessarily, but like, you know, the rule of like the black to color to negative, all that stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
like Lucas, right? When I was apprenticing Lucas, like he had to do so many traditional pieces before he did anything else, you know. I actually started him on script because you learn so much from script.
I start my apprentices on that too.
Yeah, and it,
Yeah.
like they kind of don't realize why until later, and then you're like, now you know how to sculpt and flow and do all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like very important.
The fundamentals of flow.
I had him do so much script, man. He could like I think he's had to tattoo it maybe twice his whole
Yeah.
career, but he knows how to do it, and yeah. So, but totally get what you're saying though. Like, I mean, neo-traditional is just like
It's such a
Fundamentals.
broad term. And when we had Bobby on the show, we talked about like the same exact thing, and he doesn't really like that term just because it's so wide. Like I guess you could look at everybody at the Grand Reaper in broad strokes. It's like, oh yeah, most people there do like a neo-traditional, but like what you do to what Bobby does to what Lucas does, like it's all so different.
Sure.
It's like saying I do realism. Like I definitely like if I heard that, I'd be like,
right.
because I think of like someone printing, like just copying printer style, like being a
Sure,
printer, and I'm like, I'm not.
sure.
Yeah.
So I understand it is just like a very broad umbrella term.
I also think it does take a little bit of an eye in studying that kind of work, because you know somebody who doesn't know a bunch of tattooers or know Deanna's work too well might look at her work and be like, oh, it's color realism,
Sure.
or look at your work versus Chris's work and be like, oh, they do pretty much the same thing. But it's not until you like really start looking at it, maybe looking at other styles of tattoos, that you're like, okay, I see
Sure.
the differences here. I see how this is not like that at all. Sometimes you got to put them up next to each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people too, a lot of people don't really know what they're looking at, because maybe like, they might not be an artist, so you see a lot of people that like, art is subjective, so I can't really say like they like bad,
Yeah,
tattoos or
right,
art.
right.
But you'll see something and be like, wow, that's not really that good, but somebody will love it, right? But I mean, it's like me, like I love music, but I don't play music. So I might hear something and be like, yo, this is amazing, but somebody that's like an amazing guitarist might be like, yeah, it's trash, like.
And everyone has different priorities. It's why I don't buy designer clothes. I don't know the difference really. I don't feel big differences. So I will buy Fashion Nova clothing.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so it just depends on like what you're into.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like somebody has to like point it out to you too. When I kind of got into the tattoo industry, like kind of like when we started dating, and she started showing me
Yeah.
a bunch of people, a bunch of artists, and so I would show her like a big back piece, be like, whoa, this is so cool, and then she'd be like, yeah, it's cool because it's a back piece, but if you like look at this area, like
Yeah.
if that was like a smaller tattoo, you'd be like, oh, it's whatever. And so from I learned from that,
Sure,
so when
of
I'm
course.
looking at stuff, like I take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
And then side note, when we first started dating, she took my phone and she's like, here's all the sick tattooers that you need to follow. And she went and followed like
Yeah.
a bunch of people. You're one of those
Cool.
people.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like when Lucas was an apprentice, I showed him Lars's work. I was like, this guy's like, he's got it figured out. And he
Yeah.
looked at it and he didn't get it. He was like, I don't like, that's cool. I don't see it. I was like, you will though.
Wow.
Like one day you will. And,
Yeah.
and he like brings that up sometimes. He's like, yeah, like, he's like, dude, like now he gets it. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, dude, I understand. And like, he's got his whole back done by him now. So,
Oh, no way.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
because he sees now what he didn't see before.
Yeah.
He sees why it is so good.
Yeah. And I'm not a tattoo artist, but I'm sure there's another layer of like when you start trying to emulate or learning like what's difficult to emulate or like what's hard to execute. I'm sure you gain a deeper appreciation for like, dang, I could,
Sure.
like I didn't like that guy's drawings at first, but I know how fucking hard that is to draw. So now I have a better appreciation.
Well, I've seen his process too, and it's his process before tattooing it even is like very like thought out, intricate, and just like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about it here, but I'm not going to give away all this guy's.
Sure.
It's not for me. Like I said, it's not for me to say. But he's very thorough. It's all very thought out. And all of it's very intentional. And he and I were talking, and it was like a small thumb. Like he was showing me my Instagram, just scrolling through without opening anything. And he's like, how much of this can you read? Like, how much of this is readable? And he showed me one. He's like, this I can tell what it is. This I can tell what it is. What's going on here? And I was looking at it. I was like, damn, man, he's right. You can't tell what's going on there at all. There's a whole front piece. And then, like that stuck with me, right? So,
Wow.
I love, you mentioned that in your seminar the other day, and I really like that. It stuck with me because I always think, if you can see a piece and read it from across the room, like that is part of what makes a good tattoo. But I like taking it the extra step and translating it to social media. Like you got to tell what it is from that.
yeah.
That tiny
like
thumbnail
before you
right
pull
there.
it up on your little phone, there's those 3 pictures across, right? You can't tell what it is there. It's too busy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
You have to do so much work to be able to simplify.
It's
And-
hard to convey as much information as you
Yeah.
can with as little as you can.
Yeah, it takes so much work. People don't realize it.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
hard.
think that is a thing that all the best tattooers or best tattoos that I know of have in common is that it's simple subject matter.
Yeah.
They're not trying to fit in all of this shit into one space.
Yeah.
I feel like even sometimes clients can even have this idea. They're like, oh, I want to like come up with a sick tattoo. I want this holding this with this coming out. Da, 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 da. And they don't realize, okay, like words sound cool. But as a tattoo, the best ones, all of them have one thing in common is that they are readable, that they are simple. All my favorite ones, and it's the stuff you do, lady, flower, hand.
Yeah, it's like my bread and butter, man. Like I was saying in my seminar, it's like if you tell me like, oh man, do whatever you want. Like if it's somebody I know, they might get something different. But if it's like I don't know you, like I don't know what you're into. Like I assume you like my work, so you probably like the women and the flowers and things like that, right? So that's what you're gonna get. Like if I don't know you and you say do whatever you want, you're probably gonna get some kind of lady, some kind of flower.
Yeah.
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 Do you ever get tired of doing that?
I can't say I get tired of it, but it's one of those things like I mean, I can't tell you how many I've done, right? Like how many women and hands and flowers can you draw and make different? I mean, you can do, obviously it's endless, right? Because a lot of people are doing flowers and women and whatever. But it's just trying to find new ways to do it.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part. It's like, all right, write a song, right? And then it's like, all right, like write another song that's kind of similar but different. And then do that again and again and again and again. And you're like, you have to keep finding new ways to,
While making it still work.
making it still work, making it new, making it different. Like every one has to be different. right?
Different, but still with same
Yeah. I
fundamentals.
mean, people come
Yeah.
to you with expectations, like,
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because we just had Gian on the podcast and he was saying, he's like, yeah, compare it, being a tattooer to being a musician. Like if you're a musician, be like, you got to make hits like 3-4 times a week. And so yeah, you just kind of took it another level where it's like, yeah, you got to make it similar, but like
Yeah.
a little bit different. And yeah, to do it at a really high level, like
Yeah.
it's difficult.
and sometimes the inspiration is just not there. Inspiration's a thing. It's like it's a fleeting thing. It's not always the inspiration. It's just sitting down and doing it. Like that's what you have to do. Like sometimes it's like going to the gym, right? Once you're there, you can work out. But sometimes it's like, fuck, I gotta get in my car. I gotta go to the gym. I gotta do all these things. And it's like, so it's not like we're always inspired to like, fuck, I'm gonna sit down and draw something dope. It's more like, okay, I have somebody flying in, and I have to have this ready. But you don't. Maybe you don't. You're not in that headspace. You have to put yourself there, and that's a difficult thing too.
Yeah.
So because it's just not always there.
So when it comes to getting, when you mentioned in your seminar too, for your flowers, you take a lot of your own references.
Yeah, I like to.
Just
if I
like
can.
go to the rose garden for that.
But I can only access so many flowers, I guess. So I have a ton of rose reference and things
Yeah.
like that. But if I need like a lily, I don't have any lily reference. I mean, I could go buy some lilies,
Yeah.
photograph them. So I mean, like really, you could do that. But
Yeah.
because I feel like if you find your own reference, you can get the angles you want. I mean, I have like like a fake rose in my art studio. I can hold it and move it and stuff, and then I can just draw whatever other rose. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you said, you showed some pictures of your own hands and how you use those for reference a lot of times. Where do you get like your face references?
Anywhere I can get them. Like if I see a post on Instagram and I'm like, and I want to draw it, like I'll save it. Pinterest, Google, books. Oh, dude, I've been in like Europe and I see makeup ads and I'm like, take a picture.
Nice.
Yeah, that face angle's perfect. You just know it when you see it. So anytime I see it, I either take a picture, I save it, whatever I need to do. I've taken screenshots of movies before. Like I'm watching a movie, I'm like, yo, the lighting is perfect. You stop it, like take a picture.
Yeah.
Like the Back to the Future stuff I was showing you, like where I did it like kind of a more real, like color kind of style.
Yeah.
I was trying not to take images from the internet for those, right? So I was like pausing the movie, and you can't on the iPad, you can't take screenshots because it's like copyright protected. So I'm like taking pictures of my TV and stuff, and trying to like get these pictures of like perfect stopping like frame of like Doc Brown and stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anywhere I can get my reference, I get it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Have you messed around with AI at all?
Not really. So AI is kind of a touchy subject for a lot of artists, right? Because it can do some amazing things, and it is a very helpful tool, and I understand that. I'm afraid to tap into that world because I think it'll do too much. I think it could make me lazy. Like for instance, like I do it a couple times and I'm like, yo, that like the stuff they create so dope. It gives me such crazy ideas, right? But I feel like a lot of the essence of like myself goes away if it's creating my ideas for me. And if that's you do you. Anybody listening, you know what I mean? But like that's how I feel about it.
You don't feel like you could also just use it as a tool but still keep to yourself? Are you afraid you would fall down like this rabbit hole of
I'm afraid it would. I mean, iPads are already, like I love using an iPad. It's very convenient. It's so much easier. Like you can try a billion different things, but it's making people a little bit. I'm gonna say lazier. Like for me, that's how I feel. It is making me a little bit lazier. As far as like it's too easy to throw like a face in and just trace the composition and stuff like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Like again, I was talking about that in my seminar. Like I showed the time lapse video of my drawing. I drew everything that was used in that tattoo, right?
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you're in a rush. You're like, oh, I'm just gonna like trace this hand real quick, throw it in there. Like it's almost too convenient. Like it's too easy. And my thing is, I like to draw, right? So if it's taking me away from that, it's like I'm not sharpening those skills of being able to draw, right? And again, I'm a tattooer. It's fine. You got to be efficient. Like you want to trace a face and a hand and make a good tattoo, fucking do it. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying for me, I feel like it almost feels like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
So it's not really like a conceptual thing where you're like, oh, I think this is a bad thing. It sounds more like of a personal.
It's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. Like I understand that it is a very helpful tool. Like it comes up with some cool ideas. I mean, I could like punch in something like, give me a girl with this, whatever, and then draw it my own way.
Yeah.
And then, totally fine. But I just feel like, I'm worried out it would be too much of a crutch and I would like lean too far into it. And I feel like I would lose some of the, I don't know, man. I don't want the robots making the art. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want them doing the shit that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that because it's been like a controversial thing for hundreds of years, honestly, in art in general and like helpful tools. It was a camera obscura back in the day, and some people have a thing. Well, they projected this image onto their canvas, and that's how Vermeer did a lot of his work. Is he a true artist or is he not? So I really think you're right. Like it is more of like a personal preference on what you have to do.
Sure.
I have art teachers who are like, you know the fundamentals. At some point, like it's okay to use a projector just to like easily get how big you want your figures or something, and then be able to draw the rest and use tools like that. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting hearing you say like you want to draw everything on your own, even on the iPad. Like you're not even using it as a tool to like reference the sizing of it. You're just drawing everything from scratch.
Oh, I mean, I take shortcuts sometimes. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like I do love to draw, but every once in a while it's late. It's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and you're like, dude, I'm just gonna put this hand in, knock it out real quick.
Yeah.
Impose a hand, like pose it, trace the composition of it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I never do that.
Yeah.
That would be, I'm not sitting here trying to like be like, I draw everything by hand. Like I do like to. Like that's my preferred way if I have the time, right? It's funny because like I used to only like I don't care if I was up till 6, 7 a.m. I was like, I'm not tracing shit, right? Like I'm drawing everything. And then you start realizing you're like, bro, I am fucking tired. Like I know how to draw a hand. I'm just gonna put this hand in and do it real quick.
Right.
So again, the goal is to make a good tattoo.
Right.
Like nobody gives a shit if you can actually draw anymore. It's like they're just looking at the tattoo.
Right.
So
and that's where you need to have a good eye for composition and all of this stuff, which is why I also feel like when you're first starting out, like any masters, you copy old masters' work in like the art world. With tattoos, like if you were jumping into tattooing, you either, I feel like, start out doing traditional flash or, for like realism artists, you start out trying to just tattoo a face. But after a while, that's if you want your career to like really grow, if you want to become something of yourself and become really great, that's not going to cut it anymore.
Sure.
Being able to copy a face as much as you could, make it look like a photo, is not it anymore.
it depends. I mean, there's the people that are doing it better that are still doing it better than everybody else. They're still killing it.
It's great,
but
but
it's
I
harder
would
to
still much rather have like the fundamentals of flow and composition.
Oh, same. Same. I mean, it kills me when I see like a beautifully done color realism piece that's just no flow and it just ends awkwardly and it just slapped on.
Right.
And then it just like the halo behind it just fades out to some reddish glow or something, and it's like
Yeah.
it's like when it shapes the body, that's where it has to look good on the body, man.
Yeah, I feel like the more that I've been in this industry, the more that I'm like, there's it's kind of like you can really tell like there's levels to this shit, you know. And I feel like, and I was talking about it last night at dinner. I feel like one of the reasons I respect like, yeah, I'll say neo-traditional, but the style that you do, where you're drawing a lot of stuff and it's not just straight up realism, but I look at the way you guys fit the body and you put stuff together, and it's not just like putting together a realism sleeve where it's kind of easy to, you know, you can put some gray wash behind stuff and like link stuff together, but the way you guys draw for the body and then the way that you fit it around other pieces, like seeing what Bobby did on her arm blows me away every time. Cause like I look at that, I'm like, that's fucking hard. And you need like an eye to do that. And it goes so far beyond just replicating a photograph, which is not that that's not difficult too, but like it's just another step. And it's
Sure.
just like another,
Yeah, I mean it's essentially your canvas, yeah. So like, I mean, there's beautiful natural lines and curves on bodies that you can use, right? So for instance, like you have it like a shapely person, you can like accentuate these shapes, and like it just looks natural and it flows together, like they work together. It's like a harmonious thing. It's like it's awesome. Like it's so cool when you see it, see it done properly, and you're like how everything just flows with the anatomy. It's just so pleasing. Like that's my favorite part about this whole thing. Like I love to draw, right? Like that's why I tattoo. I love to tattoo as well, but like I draw for a living, and that's what I wanted to do as a kid. Since being a famous athlete didn't pan out because I'm 5'8", right? And 150 pounds, but like
it still could, man.
it could, man. But I don't have that toughness, So
I think that's really helpful though, that you not just have like a lot of people have fine art backgrounds, which if you go to art school, you're really like a lot of the times drawing what you see in real life. But you came up drawing like really drawing characters and stuff. And I can see how that could have helped you do what you do today.
sure, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I was influenced by like realism comic books, and I went to school for animation for to get like an associate's degree. It's like
So you went to actual school.
well, I went to school for animation, so I'm sure I picked up some things there. But
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there was people in my class that couldn't even draw. I'm not saying that like if you paid them the money and you took the classes, you could have got the same degree. So I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying like animation, you have to line a character taking a step and then another. You have to line it, and you have to make them not move and wiggle on the camera. So I mean, that's line drawing right there. So it definitely helped.
Yeah.
And then they teach you the basic, circles and shapes and how to create these characters and things. So
If you're one of the countless artists that has ditched that second skin because of all the crazy reactions you're getting, I think it's time to look into Sin Skin. It absolutely crushes anything else on the market right now. It's flexible, it's hypoallergenic, and it just sticks really well. You'll also notice that it irritates skin much less. At this point, I won't use anything else. Try it out and go to sinnerstattoosupply.com and get 10% off your order when you use the discount code Deanna10. Were you always just this fucking good at what you do?
of course
your
I
whole
wasn't.
life?
No, definitely not. I mean, I could always draw, right?
Yeah.
But like, I look back at my old drawings. I'm like, I can see everything wrong with it. Like
Yeah.
to say like, just for people to expect like you to just be like I can just draw anything, right? And I'm just like, I've always been this good. It like there was a recent podcast they were talking about this with Philip Liu, and like it takes away from all your hard work that it took to get there, man. It's like the reason I'm whatever you think my skill level is, the reason it is where it is because of all the hours and fucking like endless nights and early mornings and like all the time it took drawing to get there. You know what I mean? So whatever level I'm at now, whether you're impressed or not, like this is where I'm at. And there's a long trail of what it took to get to this point. And wherever I'm going to end up, that's a long road as well, So it comes from doing it, messing it up. Like I learn mostly from my mistakes. I'll put something on a body, I'll see it later, and I'm like, dude, that chin is too shallow or something. Those eyes are a little off because of where I put it in the body. You know what I mean? It eats me up. I'll stay up at night, like looking at it, thinking about the photo, obsessing about it. I'm not in the moment with somebody I'm hanging out with because I'm like in my head about like, fuck, how am I gonna like? It tears me up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not doing that again, right? So I learn from that, and then I'll mess up something else. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing that again, and it just like keeps compiling, and you have this whole list. You're like, I know not to do this, 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 and this. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's more about you realize what not to do, which pushes you in the direction of what you need to do.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it's so true.
I feel like there's also a degree of like you have to like not be like complacent, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, you know, inspiration versus like I have to do this good tattoo, you know, it doesn't matter if you're inspired or not.
Sure.
And I was thinking about it during the seminar yesterday or 2 days ago when you were doing that tattoo, because you put that stencil on like 4 or 5 times, and you know, it was a seminar, so maybe you wouldn't have been that meticulous at home, but I know you, and I know you are.
Oh, I am.
And I feel like just that right there is like so telling, because there's artists that would do it the first, second time and be like, oh, it's good enough.
Yeah.
But there's like another layer, and it doesn't fucking matter if you're motivated that day or not, right? It's just like, this is the job to do like the best tattoo possible, and if you got to move the stencil 3, 4, 5 times, like you're gonna do it.
I would have done it for 2 hours and made everybody sit there and wait. I mean, this is going on a actual person. Like she's the girl getting the tattoo. Everybody else is watching, but like she has to live with this thing, right, forever. So that's the problem. Like in this industry, there should not be anything. Like there should not be a good enough. Like that should not exist in this industry, in my opinion. Dude, people are giving me their entire bodies, man. Like I'm gonna give them good enough. Like there's no place for that here, in my opinion. Like if you're doing good enough, like go do something else good enough. Like that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So
Well, how do you balance that with, you know, and we were talking about this during the seminar too. It's like you're never content with your stuff, or you feel like that's, you know, it's there's always stuff that you could do better. So how do you balance that internally of like, you know, you're doing tattoos that are good enough to you to put on somebody, but you know,
I
it's
see what
still
you're
not
saying.
perfect.
Yeah. Like so like if you're not like, I think you have to like, if it truly is the best you can do, then it's good enough.
Yeah.
Right. And but I think, for instance, I mean, I'm saying like you make a good point, right? Because me saying like, oh, I never feel like my like it's never quite there, but like, okay, well then how is it good enough, right?
Yeah.
But it's like it's literally like this is it, man. This is all I got. This is what I have to give.
Yeah.
You know. So it has to be in that sense. You're right. It has to be good enough in that sense.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think that's the difference, is like, did you put every fucking thing you can
Sure.
into it? Because, and that's like, that's the difficulty as an artist, dude. Like, you're never going to, and at the end of the day, even if you do something that you think is perfect,
Sure.
hopefully you don't, because then it's probably not that good. But art is subjective, dude. One person
Yeah.
could think that's the fucking best tattoo,
Sure.
and then somebody else could think, you know, that's shit, and it may or may not
And-
have a place.
And
but,
I also want to clear up. I mean, by like when I say like good enough, right? Like I mean, like, you know, sometimes we only have a certain amount of time to draw these things, and you have to do the best job you can in a 6-hour span. You have to draw a whole thing, right? Like because maybe we have lives outside of this. We have to draw behind the curtains. You know what I mean? Like
you've got 3, 4 other appointments
Right.
that week you got to draw for. You only have 24 hours in
yeah.
a day.
So sometimes it's like, okay, I have to do my best job in this amount of time.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Like, but what I'm saying by like, oh, that's good enough. If I put the stencil on, I was like, it's not quite right, but it's good enough.
Totally.
That's what I'm talking about.
Totally.
Right. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Or being like, that's not really like super solid, or that blend's not really great, but it's like, it's good enough.
I can speak for myself when I say, like, I feel good knowing that I tried my best in that moment. And then afterwards, when I know I tried my best and I look at that photo, that's when I'm like, fuck, like,
Yeah.
I see where I could have done better. But I have to say, but I'm okay though, you know, because I know I tried my best. But also I'm like, wow, my best wasn't good enough.
But when is it gonna be? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like we were talking, like I'm a very pessimistic dude in that sense, where like I understand that I'm never gonna be fully satisfied with this. Like that means I die like never being like, I put my whole life into this and I fucking did it, right? But I mean, it's not about the end point. It's just because you're not gonna reach that end point. And if you
It'd be
do, you're
boring.
done. What's the point of
It'd be
going on? So
boring
it's
if you
like
did.
it's just the journey, man. Like you have to realize like it's just it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's an endless journey, and you're just on it. So just ride it out. And then if you're not into it anymore, then find something new to do, you know. But
We were at a Mitch Anderson seminar a few weeks ago in Utah, and, and his seminar was like on motivation and creativity and stuff like that. And he had this one quote. I'm not going to try to say it exactly because I'm going to butcher it, but basically the gist is like, you know, there's a difference between like being happy and like being content. And so like the person that's never content, like you, there are people that have a shit job that don't try very hard, and their life is just, you know, they're not working that hard every day, and they're happier than you'll ever be.
sure.
And so it's
Absolutely.
kind of like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be happy, or do you want to be like content?
Sure.
Yeah. You gotta
I
find
mean, this is what I find fulfilling, you know, like it's weird as an artist, at least from my perspective. Like if I go like 2-3 months, I'm not doing anything artistic. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Like, and that's a weird way to be, right? Cause like life is about other things as well. You know,
Yeah.
you have to make time for these things, but,
Yeah.
I feel almost guilty. Like I should be creating something. Like I should be doing something. I should be painting or drawing or something, you know? So if I go a long time without doing these things, it almost like it's like a guilt, right? And that's a hard thing for me to get away from.
So you deal with that even when you're tattooing during the week. You're
When,
talking
when
about
I'm
outside
when I'm
of tattoo.
tattooing, it's like I mean, right now, man, I got so many projects I need to draw. Like I'm always drawing.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that way right now. But
Yeah.
like, you know, if I wasn't tattooing, because I mean, tattooing it's my job, but it's also like it's a way for me to create
Yeah.
art. You know?
Totally.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, do you ever take time off tattooing to focus on like other areas of art?
Yeah, every once in a while. Because I mean, as much as I do love it, I mean, everybody that's been doing it for, I mean, there might be people that just started that are already burning themselves out, you know. But every once in a while, you are just burned out. You need a break, you know. Sometimes it's like, man, I need to like not draw for like at least a couple weeks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do take time off here and there to kind of just reset, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard job. Everything that I do is like I said, it's all custom drawn. It's all new. It's all I mean, it's new from me. Like I'm not using existing things. So if I have to draw 20 back pieces, I have to draw 20 different back pieces. You know what I mean?
I
So-
feel like if you don't feel like you ever need to take a break from drawing, then you're not doing enough when you are drawing.
Probably true. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I truly do
Yeah.
love drawing, but there's times that I go home. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to draw
Like
anything.
it's exhausting when you put as much effort as you do into your tattoos. Like it's tiring once in a while. It
Mm-hmm. It
takes
is, yeah.
so much energy.
And it's funny because a lot of like if you're not in the industry, like I have family members that like I'm like, yeah, I can't like stay out and drink because I got to work tomorrow. And like, oh man, you like all you doing is like you're just tattooing. I'm like, it offends me. So I'm like, bro, you have no fucking idea. Like,
yeah,
like-
that is offensive.
yeah. I'm like, it's like mentally, like when you're working, you're in it, and it's you feel good. You feel like you could go out, and as soon as you go home, your brain just like shuts down.
Yes.
Your battery just drains.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It sucks because I have not been motivated to paint, and that was like my whole identity. My whole life was a painter, and since I started tattooing and getting into tattooing, I was still doing it, but like for the past, I don't know, like 6 years, like when I really like started pushing myself, I cannot get myself to sit down and paint. And then I feel that guilt like you're talking about where I'm
Yep.
like, okay, this whole identity that was just me for so long, I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
And like, do I not like painting now? I'm not sure. But I think that's what can happen sometimes when you just put 110% in something that you do is
Sure.
like,
But let's say that
kinda get
became your
melty.
identity. Like if you don't like painting anymore and you just want to tattoo, are you able to let that go? Like can that be your new identity? Is that okay?
I don't know yet.
Like is that like maybe we're holding on to something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, honestly.
It's tough. Yeah. It's hard to let go of these like cuz you create an identity for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like people be like, "Oh, like you identify as like oh, I don't like, oh, I don't like coffee, right?"
Mm-hmm.
That's just like part of your identity, I'm not saying that that's me. I love coffee, but just saying you make all these little weird things for yourself,
Yeah.
and then it's hard to be like you're like, well, I'm this kind of person, and then you create
Yeah.
your like identity based around it.
It's like I think it's just some type of shame, and I don't know what the shame revolves around and why it would be shameful for me to let go of that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why yet, but yeah.
Man, maybe you
it's
don't. I
tough.
mean, maybe you don't have to let go of it. Maybe you're just on a little hiatus.
I've been saying that for years, though.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
know what?
when is
Like,
this hiatus gonna
if the
be
time's not,
done?
you're doing other things. You're tattooing.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're not doing anything. But I totally get how you feel. I
I'm
always want to paint, and I
glad.
hardly ever paint. Like I haven't had
It's
new
refreshing
prints in-
hearing you say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm only human. Like I'm sitting here on a podcast, making it sound like I'm some fucking machine. Like I get burnout. I get tired of drawing. I get lazy. You know what I mean? It happens.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like my whole point. And again, tattooing's supposed to be fun. Like it is supposed to be fun, but like I think it's something to be taken seriously as well. It's like again, it's like you're putting things on people that are supposed to be forever. And we have laser and blackouts and all these things now that you can do, but like I mean just put some effort into it, man. Like these people are charging a lot of money, and people are flying in, and they're going through a lot to get these tattoos. So like I think also it kind of shows like the people that are doing it right, like I assume they're busy for a reason, but there's a lot of people that are busy. I don't know what everybody's doing. I'm just saying, like, put some effort into it. Like, try to
Yeah. But
try to give it your all if you can.
what are your goals? And we were talking kind of like last night, we were talking about goals and like, oh, it just matters like what your goals are. And you touched on like, well, it's just not me, to be doing like the reels and all that. What are your goals for yourself as of right now?
So
If you have any,
sure, I mean, goals are kind of important. Give you something
Yeah.
to work towards.
You could just wanting to do like the next coolest tattoo every day, but
Yeah, I think I want to. I don't know. I need to figure out. I'm always kind of thinking like, where can I take it next, right? Like, do I want to branch out and try something a little bit different? Like, I would like to start painting more. I kind of new to oil painting, and it's so different than what I'm used to.
what were you doing before?
Usually like liquid acrylic stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I messed around with oils and stuff. I would love to do that more. So, but it's hard to find the time in between tattooing. Like I could find the time, but when I have the time, I usually want to do something else because I'm like, I've been drawing and tattooing all day.
Yeah.
So, kind of focusing on focus on the shop for now, kind of get that moving along.
Yeah, you have your own shop now.
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Where is it? What are the details?
I'll announce all that in due time, but
Okay.
it's downtown San Diego.
All right.
No, we're not.
This won't come out for another month or two.
Okay.
So-
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So
it's
it's up to you.
it's downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, downtown San Diego. Me and Lucas.
Awesome.
Yeah, my former apprentice, no longer an apprentice now. Dude's crushing it. Dude's so good.
I remember like when I was very new and talking to my fellow artists who apprenticed with me and be like, man, like Justin's apprentice is sick. Like he's going to
He
be
is.
amazing. And he got good real fast. And
He did.
I'm sure a lot has
but
to do with your teachings too.
It does have to do with that. Like, I mean, I definitely like kind of pushed him in the direction and taught him what I know. But like, a lot of what he does is on him. Like,
That's great.
he's good because of what he does, not because of what I taught him. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously the foundation, but then he could choose to do nothing with that and be lazy. Right?
Absolutely.
But that kid's always drawing. He's always trying new things. Like he's always trying to do something like different. Like even like with the shop, he's like looking at like these ugly like wash bottles. He's like, yo, is there something better than this? Like, why does everybody use these things? And like, I understand it's because of the materials and like, but he's like, is there something like this, but like better? And that's how he thinks. Like the ring lights everybody uses. He's like, these are ugly as fuck. And like, there's this big empty gap in the middle. Is there something better than this? Like, this is blinding our clients all day. Like, what can we use instead? And I'm like, now it's kind of got me thinking that way. And I'm like, it's cool.
Wow.
So he's like that with his tattoos too. He's like, what can I change? What can I try? It's crazy. I don't know how he's always doing it, but
It's a great mentality.
and that's how he's getting as good as he's getting. So, yeah, I respect the shit out of that kid.
Yeah, you were even saying last night, sometimes he'll just like cut the price down on a tattoo just so he can finish it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't want to throw all his stuff out there, but yeah, like I've seen him like he'll be tattooing and he's into the tattoo. So he's like, he's got the day off tomorrow, and he's like, hey, you wanna come in tomorrow and get tattooed? Like, you wanna keep going? They're like, I can't, man. And he wants to work on it. So he's like, what if I like knock the price down a little bit? And they're like, dude, I gotta pick up my kids and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, but he's trying. He's like, he wants to work. He
Yeah.
wants to work on these pieces.
No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
What a great mentality.
Yeah. He's in a cool spot right now. Like I think he's in an exciting part of his career where you're like you're like figuring it out and you're excited about it and you're like stoked to see what you can do with it.
Yeah.
I think that's where he's at right now. So.
What would be, if you were to have another apprentice, or just speaking to anybody listening who is into tattooing, what would you feel like would be the biggest advice you can give for someone who wants to be really, really good at what they do?
My advice would be you're gonna get what you put into it. You're gonna get back what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just expect it to come easy, then good luck to you, right? If it does come easy to you and you're a prodigy, great. If you're Jimi Hendrix on guitar, that's awesome, good for you. But like you're only gonna get better by doing it. So if you want to be good at drawing, you have to draw so much. I've been drawing all my life. I'm 40 years old. I think I started when I was like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right? That's a long time to be drawing, and subjectively, like, maybe I should be better than I am because that's a lot. It's a lot of time put in. But I am confident in my drawing ability. I think that's where I'm most confident. Not to say that I'm like, think I'm gonna nail it every time. It still takes work,
Of course.
But I'm confident in those abilities, So because I've done it so much, and so it feels natural, right? So I think you have to do it that much for it to feel that way,
Yeah.
where it stops feeling foreign and scary, and it's like doing scales on a guitar. The first few times, you're going to be clunky and it's going to suck. Your fingers are going to hurt. After a while, you don't think about it. You're just like, do, 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 So,
Yeah.
You have to be okay with getting worse before you get better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have to be okay with, if you're going to try something else. Like, for me, it's hard to go back to oil painting because I know how to do this other style. Like, I feel comfortable. And then I step out of that. Now I'm uncomfortable and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling.
No, I'm like, man, I suck at this. I'm supposed to be like an artist, good at this stuff, right? That's in my head.
Yeah.
And then, but you have to embrace that because you have to overcome that little hurdle to move on and get better. Like, you have to suck at first,
That's
Yeah.
how I feel
How it's
about
gonna be.
interior design.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on that, man.
It's like, wait, shouldn't I know what looks good? But
Yeah, but that's a whole nother thing. Like, you think something's gonna look good online, you're like, that's gonna look dope, and then you put it in, you're like, I don't like that at all. It just doesn't work. So,
our house has nothing on the walls either. I'm like, I don't
Pretty crazy.
know what to do.
Been there for 4 years.
I don't know
yeah,
what
We
to
have
do.
like one thing hung up.
I have friends that have stuff like framed and it's just like leaned against the wall. I'm like, why don't you put this stuff up? They're like, I don't know. It's just like, got to figure out where it's gonna go.
I don't know how to put it. Yeah.
Been there for like a year.
Yeah.
I want to take a second to talk about Allegory ink. I've been using Allegory black ink for some time now, and it's been the best black ink I've ever used. It's really consistent, really black, and I haven't used anything else since. They also have Ultra Black if you need that extra punch. Use the code EDEN20 for 20% off your order.
So we've been talking about the whole weekend about this full bodysuit you're working on, almost
Yeah.
full bodysuit that you've been working on. But is that kind of how most of your clients are, where you're doing like big pieces like sleeve, front panels, back panels?
For the most part, yeah, I'm doing a lot of big stuff, but like we were saying, a lot of them are tattooers, and they're like, I only have this space left, right? They're like, they got their whole body, they have their back left, or like their front, or the weird gaps that nobody ever wants to get tattooed. They got like, I got this little space on my throat, or like the back of my knee or something. Like, so usually it's, a lot of people, they come in, they don't have that many tattoos. It's more likely I'm going to do like a full back, and then they might want a sleeve, and then they might want another sleeve, right? Because they have all this open space. Tattooers, not so much. They're like, I got my back, and then, maybe we would do a sleeve next, but they don't have anything left, So, but it's cool. It's cool when a tattooer has like, they've been saving their back, and then like they choose you for that, It's like,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
What would you say, like percentage wise, of your clients are tattooers?
Last time I opened my books, it felt like more. It was mostly tattooers. This time I feel like I have,
That's wild, dude.
yeah.
I feel like that's one of the biggest indicators of like being a good tattooer is like if you tattoo other tattooers.
Well, I tattoo a few less tattooers now, so I must have dropped off a little bit. But
Well,
there's, like-
yeah, totally. No, just kidding. But
So,
but
there-
still, I mean, to tattoo tattooers at all,
yeah,
like I feel like that's a
I'd
pretty
say
good
like
indicator.
70% are probably tattooers.
That's insane.
yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah. It's cool too because tattooers, they kind of know what goes into it, and they usually like, they don't care. They're just like, bro, just do something cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they
Totally.
trust you, because they know. But they also, I mean, dude, I have awesome clients, man. My clients, like, I get a few people that are like, they might not be too chatty, like we don't know each other well. They kind of just come in, get tattooed, and go. So we don't, but they're still great. Like they sit great and everything, But most of them, like you connect with your clients, man. You spend a lot of time with these guys. Like the guy we were talking about doing a bodysuit, man. I love that guy. Like he's like one of my best, like one of my close friends, Like I went to his wedding, Like we have deep fucking conversations, like real
Wow.
conversations. I love it. We talk about like real stuff, Like he's a great dude, like awesome guy.
Yeah.
He and his wife, man, like great people. So.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to meet a lot of amazing people through this job, and it's hard too because they start as clients, and then you're like, "Fuck, man!" Like when do you stop charging people and stuff? Because it's still your job, and then you're like hanging out with these people, going to their house, going to their wedding. It's weird. It's a weird thing.
I
It's,
feel
it's cool.
so uncomfortable tattooing homies, like as far as payment and all of that goes, because it's like,
Yeah.
it's my job. Like,
Yeah,
you have to pay me, but I don't want money from you. But
yeah,
am I rude to ask for this much? And
yeah. But like
really
you are
hard.
taking like a day or two
yeah,
that you could be tattooing somebody else. So it is this weird. It's an awkward thing.
it's so weird.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah,
Like I hate that part of it. Just figuring that out, navigating that. It's hard.
yeah.
Because I do become friends with a lot of my clients, like a lot of them. I mean, like you're drawn to a similar aesthetic, right? So you automatically, you're gonna have stuff in common with some of these people.
So with a lot of those bigger pieces, do they like start out like that where people are like, "Oh, I want my whole back done by you"?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they have a big area they want filled. Sometimes no. So the guy I was talking about, his name's Urban. He got in for like I posted I had a cancellation, and I was like I should book something. I want to work, So I was like, I have Saturday open. I want to do a one-shot piece. Like send me pictures of the area and your ideas, right? And he was the last email I got. Like I think I had already mentally kind of picked somebody and been like, okay, I'm gonna get back to this guy. And then he was like a day late. Like I had emails come in, and his was the last one. It was quite a bit later than everybody else. And I think it's because his job, he's a firefighter. So I don't think like it's hard for him to get time to go do these things. But something about his email, I was like, I'm going to go with this guy. And he just got his forearm done. We did a forearm piece, and he's like, hey, man, like, would you be cool to like do the rest of the sleeve? And I'm like, yeah, of course, man. Like, you were great. You sat well. You were awesome. And then we did his sleeve. He's like, hey, man, like, you want to just like keep going, like do the other sleeve? And then it's like it turned into like he almost got his leg tattooed by Chris. Like he booked an appointment, I think, or talked to him about it. So I was just gonna do a couple sleeves on him, I think, But he's like, bro, like what if we just kind of like do it all? Like what if we just do everything? And I was like, fuck yeah, dude! Like I'm so
Yeah.
down. Like that's
Wow.
awesome. So he's my very first. So far, we've done both sleeves, his whole back. He's a big guy too. He's like, he's probably 6'2", and just like built. He's a firefighter. Dude's like, just naturally like just built guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's so everything I do on him, it's like it's huge. Like his leg is bigger than my back, I'm sure. So yeah, we've done both sleeves, his back and his front. So it's my first full connection. It was so satisfying to do that. And it's also I've only been tattooing him like 2-3 years. So nothing on him is that old. So I don't have to look at it and be like, well, this is really cool, but like this stuff's really old.
Yeah.
Like it's all fairly consistent, which is the coolest part. So yeah, I appreciate the hell out of that guy, man. Like the fact that he's letting me do that, or that he's sitting through it, and he's like so cool. Like
Do you have any pictures of this project on your Instagram?
not yet. And I've thought about it because I have so many cool pictures of it, but I'm like,
Yeah, it's incredible.
there's
what you've
so
done.
much to show, and I'm like I don't know what to show. Like, do I post this one picture and it's like I don't know. I don't know how to unveil it, So that's a lot of the reason I don't post too. I'm like, I don't know what to show yet. And I like to show things just done, like boom, here's a full back, right?
Yeah.
And then my engagement is dog shit, and they're like 4 non-followers see it, and it does nothing. So it's like, it's not even exciting. But you're just like, I don't really try to. I think of it more as like an online portfolio at this point. Like,
Yeah, totally.
I'll have something that pops off, right? Gets like crazy amount of attention, and the next thing I do, like, oh, I'm so stoked to show this, and just nothing, you know. So
Man.
that's maybe another reason I don't post. It's just, it's not that exciting anymore.
Yeah.
And I never know what to post, or, you know, so
Yeah.
there's too many like Urban. I have billions of photos of the progress. I'm like, which one do I post?
Yeah.
Like, where we're at, where we were.
Do you ever feel hurt, I guess, if a project you worked really hard on doesn't get a lot of engagement?
No.
Like a rejection?
No, not at all. I used to, because it used to show it in like chronological order. So I post one, it does terribly. I'm like, oh, that tattoo is dog shit, and I would delete it, right? And that's such a weird way to think, right? Like, you're proud of it, but you don't get like the fake, like the little hearts, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's fake. I mean, it's cool. I appreciate the attention, like the engagement from people. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like, to even take the time to tap your your thumb twice on a photo, it's like that's cool. Like, thanks for doing it, taking the time.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't go unnoticed. Like the comments and stuff, it's cool. I appreciate it. But with the algorithm now, it's like people are trying to figure it out. People are doing reels, and like people are creating online personas and all these things, and like it's hard to figure out. So now I kind of take it as like, yeah, that one didn't get out there, you know. So like,
Yeah.
I turn off the like count. I don't want one of my clients' pieces to get 20,000 likes,
That makes sense.
and the
Totally.
next one to be like 2,000 likes. I don't want them to feel like, oh, nobody liked it. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
that
just
makes sense.
yeah, it didn't get out there.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
fine. So no, I don't get butthurt anymore about it. There was a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to be like, yeah, I don't care either, but it's still hard
It is.
to not need that validation.
It
from the
feels
internet.
good. It's a nice little dopamine boost,
Yeah.
you know. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even think about that as from the client's perspective,
Yeah.
but that
yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
that's why I turn the like count off.
Yeah, and we get like bad comments sometimes. For the most part, I just kind of let it go. But when it's like, when it's like about somebody's tattoo, like I always like delete that shit right away because
Yeah.
I don't want the client to see that and be like,
For me,
"Damn, is my
it's
tattoo
when
not
like
good."
yeah, or when they comment about like somebody's body or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
fuck
Like
that, dude.
I'll block people for
Oh,
that
dude.
shit. Like
Yeah.
there's no place for that. I'm like not tolerating it.
Yeah,
Because like that's not what you're showing, like, you know. And the clients, like, they're letting you show their, like, sometimes I'm showing their whole back and butt and everything, you know. It's like kind of vulnerable in a way, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, yeah, that stuff I'll delete. Other than that, I don't really get too many shitty comments.
yeah. We don't either. But
If I did, they're helping my engagement, so
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah,
No, I'm
when
just kidding.
when stuff really pops off, that's when you get a bunch of random people who don't know who you are or don't follow you. Just-
Yeah, it's easy to say whatever you want behind a phone or a computer, you know. Some people just like being shitty
Yeah.
secretly, you know.
The
Totally.
ones that are like, I fucking hate tattoos, but I might wear this on my body.
Yeah. And it's also like
Yeah,
when
like
people
the
are
most
like,
backhanded
Okay.
people go in and hate on tattoos, but it's like, bro, you're taking the time to go and look and comment. Like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out of here, man.
It's wild.
Just like, yeah, it's like go find something better to do. Come on.
Yeah.
Being in the industry as long as you have been, how do you feel like the industry is going so far as of right now, like where it's heading?
It's hard to say. I mean, we're booming, right? Like, there's more tattooers than ever. There's I think it's harder than ever for new tattooers.
Yeah.
I mean, what style is left to explore? You know, like who's going to be the next innovative person to do something that we haven't seen yet? You know what I mean? It's going to happen, but like, it's got to be harder than ever to find a new style, or, you know, not be heavily influenced by all these other tattooers, because it's all being done. You know, like, it's crazy to think there could be anything left,
Yeah.
but obviously there is. It's an ever evolving thing.
Well-
Things will come back around, you know. But
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough for both newer tattooers and like older tattooers in different ways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to list names, but during my seminar, I was talking about social media and everything like that. And I put up like 2 pictures One is like a color realism portrait from an artist who's like an OG. Like everybody knows this artist.
Sure.
And 20 years ago, you saw that shit. And you're like, what the fuck
Yeah.
is this?
Mind blowing. Yep.
And then you've got, one of our friends who has like 1,500 followers, fucking incredible color realism artist. And you put the portraits up there. Maybe people have a preference one way or the other, but it's the same subject matter. And like me, I feel like I know tattoos pretty well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't pick which one I like better.
Sure.
And so you've got the one person who's got 1,500 followers who does this fucking incredible and mind-blowing piece of art. But because people have seen that before, they're like,
Exactly.
I don't really care that much.
Yep.
And then from the other perspective, you've got the person that's been tattooing 30 years, pioneered this realism style, fucking one of the best in the business. And then you've got this person who just started tattooing a few years ago who's like, maybe some people can like say, oh, it's not as good, but like to the untrained eye, like, dude, you're splitting hairs. And then you've got this other person that just charging 150 an hour
Sure.
versus you're charging whatever. And so for the new person, it's like, it sucks because like that standard is higher. And then for the old person, it's like,
Sure.
dude, you got to keep evolving because these kids are coming in and crushing it right off the bat.
Yeah, dude, that's my biggest fear is just being completely surpassed and just being irrelevant. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm going to do my best to not let that happen. I'm always trying to grow and move forward and learn. I'm not stuck in I try not to be stuck in one style. I try to be open-minded and, move with the, in the direction everything's going, try to stay ahead of it if I can, But it's exactly what you said. It's like when the first time I saw a color portrait, it blew my mind. I was like, you can do that? Like everything looked
exactly because it was novel. Like,
Yeah,
you have all
everything
these
looked
tattooers
wet.
That are like, what the like
yeah,
when
it
Instagram
opened
first
up this
became a
whole
thing.
new world. I started trying it. I was like, I'm gonna try this shit too, because I hadn't found a style yet. I was pretty new, so I was trying everything. I was trying Japanese, I was trying traditional, I was trying color realism, black and gray realism. Like if I saw something that looked cool, I was like, I'm trying it. You know what I mean? So, and now it's like somebody amazing comes out and they post a like similar style tattoo, but people are like, we've seen that a billion times now. It's just the shock factor is
Exactly, because there's a huge difference between being like, that's an incredible piece of art,
Sure.
and that's some shit I've never fucking seen before. I didn't even know was possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I remember I'm gonna mention Jimi Hendrix again. There's like interviews of other musicians when he came out, amazing, like crazy guitarists, and they were like, yo, when Jimi Hendrix, like we heard this fucking guy, I was like, bro, I'm gonna be selling shoes in like 6 months. Because like what he was doing was like, what the fuck? Like you can do that with a guitar, right? So now, I mean, you go on YouTube, there's probably a 6-year-old that can like play crazy scales and do shit
totally.
that full grown musicians that have been doing it forever can't do. It's just, I think the information, it's all like
it's easily accessible to
that, and it's like, we grow together as far as like technology and skill level and stuff, right? I mean, subjectively, like that's kind of why people get so good so fast, because they can find all this stuff. They can figure out how to do it, right? Because they can go study it and do all these things, right? When the internet makes that possible.
Yeah.
Like before that, how are you going to find all this information? How are you going to do it? You have to find somebody that knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Now it's all there. You can find anything. I can go online and figure out how to fix my toilet, or like install a fan or something, just like something that I wouldn't. Like I don't usually do that shit. But.
And just the culture of the tattoo industry changing to like, really like, you just taught a seminar this weekend. The fact that you can go take a seminar from your favorite artist,
sure.
And we were just talking about it with Andy on our last podcast. But it's time collapsing to have somebody that's like already figured out all the shit to tell you like, okay, here's how you do it.
Sure.
Instead of like just having to figure it out by yourself, and it just becomes this like positive feedback loop where instead of trying to figure out how to pull clean lines by yourself for years, you got somebody to be like, all right, do it like that. And you're like, at least that, then you have the basics. Yeah. And then you like skip the step from like figuring it out to like, okay, now I'm going to master this skill.
Yeah. All the information is a lot more accessible. Yeah. Like when I was getting tattooed early on, like I'd get tattooed by guys and ask them stuff and they wouldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
It was harder to get information. Like it was like a privilege to have somebody be like, let me show you how to do this. Right.
Totally.
Like I remember there was a guy at the shop. He never showed me anything. Like he didn't give a fuck that I was there. And then one day, like I don't know, maybe I impressed him or said something right. And he was like, come here, man, I'm going to teach you something, right? Showed me how to it was like some crazy obscure shit. He's like, yo, if power ever goes out, you just hook up to a battery, man, you can still tattoo. He was like, I'm in Florida, there's a hurricane going on. everybody's got no power and I'm tattooing and making money. I was like, sick, man. You know what I mean? But he felt the need to share that with me. Like I did something right. And
Yeah.
he shared some information with me. And like, I was like touched. I was like, man, this dude never even talks to me. And he wants to show me stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's how you learn. You needed people to show you things.
Yeah.
And people have different views and thoughts on seminars as well. I know people that are not too stoked on the idea of it, and it's like, teach his own, man. But like, I kind of get it. Like, people talk about gatekeeping and all this stuff, but like, there used to be a time this shit was all secret, man. And it's not anymore. Times have changed.
Yeah.
But it used to be really hard information to obtain, and I can see like some old school guys might not be too stoked that it's all so, but times have changed. It is what it is, and
Yeah.
here we are.
It's hard because I feel like you have to be afraid of being surpassed in order to not want that information to get out.
Sure. And I'll be honest, I
Yeah.
do enjoy teaching, and the people that are going to come to these things, they're people that want to learn. It's not people that don't give a shit. It's not
Yeah.
like Joe Schmo's going to sign up and just be
Right.
like, I'm going to go learn how to tattoo. Like, it's like tattooers that are
Right.
like, they're like, yo, I actually want to get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and also seminars are nothing new. Like, I was taking seminars when I was an apprentice. I like from Jack Rudy and Bob Tyrell and Lyle Tuttle, even though his was mostly stories about,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. But
Yeah.
Well, and I love what you said last night at dinner when you were talking about Lucas. You're like, yeah, he might be better than me one day. He's like, I hope he is. And I think that's the mark of a good
yeah,
teacher
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there.
yeah. I will, if he surpasses me, no shame, man. If anything, I'll be proud. Like, yeah, I taught that kid how to tattoo, and now he's better than me. Like, that's fucking cool. Like, that's awesome. I mean, dude, I learned from Lucas all the time.
Yeah.
Like, he learned from me, but like, I learned shit from him all the time because he goes deep, man. Like, in anything, like his needle cartridges, like, he's like, what's better than this? What can I use that's better than this? I'm gonna try this size. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try coils. Like, he's back on coils.
Wow.
Like, he's going back to like, he's going backwards now because he's like, I like this better. Like this,
Yeah.
he tries things. He gets bored. Like, not necessarily bored. He's always looking for something better.
That's the best way to be.
Yeah. So yeah, if he gets better than me, man, and he will.
Yeah.
One day he will.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's better than me now, subjectively. Who knows? That's up to you, whoever the
Well,
viewer
yeah,
is.
that's
Art is
like I said
subjective.
earlier, it's all subjective.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some people, people are going to him instead of me. Obviously, I mean, he has his clients, right? They could pick anybody. They're going to him. I have mine. They're going to me.
Yeah.
People have preferences. So in some people's eyes,
Totally.
the dude's killing it. So
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
not particularly. No, I feel like we covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
You guys got any last little bits? You want to know what needles I use?
Yeah.
Needle
What
setup.
colors do you use? Yeah. What are you running your machine at?
Run it high as fuck, man. Just turn it all the way up. No, I definitely don't. Definitely don't do that.
Well, thanks for joining us, man.
You.
Uh,
Thanks for
yeah.
having me, man. I appreciate you guys.
Like I said, when she was showing me the ropes of the industry and all the heavy hitters, all the best artists out there, like you're one of the people that came up earliest and most often.
Thank you guys.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows Justin Hartman, and even though I'm kind of new in this industry, it's I know you're a legend. She's been talking about you, looking up to you since she first got into it, 15 years ago. So yeah, it's the fact that you're here doing a seminar with us, doing a podcast with us. It's fucking cool for me, and I know it's really fucking cool for her.
It's been cool getting to know you guys. You're an incredible artist. So yeah, man, dude, you guys are killing it, man. So
Thank you.
appreciate you guys having me. It was a good time. It was a good experience. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Well, cool. Well, yeah. Well, until next time, thank you guys for tuning in.